Jack, yeah, she thought she was being sneaky, but what she didn't know was that I had learned about all of this from a colleague of hers who was disgusted by what was happening. I made my plans and got ready. Fortunately, I had time to manage the anger and prepare for what was about to unfold. It would all kick off tonight, right after dinner. Tonight then? Mary, my friend, inquired. Yeah, I'm finally going to do it. I'll wait until after dinner, hand him a beer, and then I'll fill you in on what happens, I replied. Just remember to stay strong. He won't like it, but you have to remain firm. I'll keep that in mind. Just as we discussed, he doesn't have a choice. This is how it's going to be, and if he truly loves me, he'll let me do this for my happiness. That's right. Just be prepared for him to yell and scream. He'll resist, but eventually, he'll come to his senses and accept the new reality. It's crucial that you stay calm but firm. Let him have his tantrum, and then he'll realize that you're in charge. That's right. Besides, as far as he knows, this will only be temporary. Once he accepts it, he'll start to enjoy it, then it'll just keep going. Are you sure about all this? Jack can be very stubborn. Look, Kayla, Jack loves you more than anything in the world. Sure, he'll get angry, but when he calms down, he'll realize that he loves you so much that he'll do anything to make you happy, even that. Okay, I think you're the expert. Trust me, it took me messing up 2 marriages to figure it all out, but I perfected the method on my 3rd marriage. You've met my current husband. He is now completely under my control. He even stands next to the bed when I'm with someone else. I also sometimes have him clean up afterward. A month from now, another Jack will get in line as well. Then you can be assured of the security of your marriage to Jack, as well as the pleasure of several other men. I finished the day and went home to cook Jack's favorite dinner. When Jack came home, he greeted me with the words, "I love you," and kissed me on the cheek as usual. Despite my best efforts, I was still nervous. This was going to be a significant step and change in our marriage, but it was all worth it. Mary had been telling me about her feminine marriage ministry for quite some time now. I had personally seen it work for her and her husband. He was really happy with how their marriage turned out. I'm sure Jack would love it too. The conversation over dinner was pleasant. We exchanged stories from the previous day and discussed some of the day's news. It was a laid-back dinner for us. After dinner, I insisted that he grab a beer and relax while I cleaned up. He resisted a bit, wanting to help, but I assured him it wasn't much, and I could handle it. The leftovers were stored, the dishes went into the dishwasher, and it was time. I poured myself a glass of wine, mentally prepared, and headed into the living room for the conversation. Jack, honey, we need to talk, I began. Sure, honey, about what? Okay, Jack, I realize this might be difficult for you to accept right now, but it's something I really need to do. Please keep in mind that this is only temporary. Okay, so what do you need? If it's that crucial to your happiness, of course, I'll do what I can. So far, he had handled it well, not even bothered. That's good. We've discussed having kids, and I'm almost ready for that, but there are a couple of other things I need to do first. It should take a couple of months at most, then we can start working on having kids. That's great, baby. So what are those things you need to do? Here it is. I took a deep breath, preparing for the reaction. Well, Jack, I need to explore a bit before settling down completely. It will be temporary, and then I can be the best wife and mother to our children you could dream of. All right, my love, that sounds reasonable so far, but how are you planning to go about it? Wow, he's handling it well. I expected him to freak out. I'll be seeing other men for a while. We'll still make love regularly, but I'll also have lovemaking with other guys to clear my head. Remember, it's only lovemaking with them. You are the only one who has my love. I'll return to you in a couple of months, be your faithful wife again, and then we can start working on having the kids we've planned. Well, Kayla, you don't seem to be asking for my permission, so I assume you've made up your mind. I'd like to go on record saying I'm not in favor of it. If you're asking for permission, I'm not giving it. However, you're a grown woman, so I won't stop you if you think it's necessary. Things were going better than I imagined. He didn't raise his voice, said it conversationally. Mary must be right. Jack will accept the new role I'm preparing him for. So, Kayla, how will this work? Are you moving out, or do you expect me to? Are you bringing them here, or going to their place or a hotel? Oh, well, we're both going to keep living here. We're married, and, as I said, we'll keep making love. The other guys will just be love making with you. It will be making love. I may go to them or bring them here. In those cases, you'll have to sleep in the spare bedroom. I don't see the need for a hotel room since we could just stay here. Again, I'm not in favor, but we shouldn't have lovemaking during this. I won't risk catching any STDs. Once you're done, we'll wait until you're tested and cleared. Have fun, don't worry about me. Well, Jack, I can't say I'm not disappointed. I love you and enjoy our lovemaking, but I understand your concern. I'll just have to live with it. That's great, honey. So when do you plan to start your little flings? Well, Mary and I decided to hit a club and meet a couple of guys from work tomorrow night. I'm not sure if it's going to happen, but I might bring one of them back for the night. Since you're not going to have lovemaking with me while I'm doing it anyway, maybe it would be best if you just move into a spare room for the next couple of months. Okay, Kayla, don't worry about it. I'll take care of moving in by the time you get home tomorrow night, Jack said before returning to reading the paper. I couldn't believe how mature he was about the whole thing. My heart soared. Sure, he weakly complained and refused lovemaking, but he was completely accepting of everything. He wasn't even the least bit angry. Mary was definitely right. In 2 months, Jack would be under my thumb. Besides, I knew this lack of lovemaking was only temporary. In a week or two, he'd be back in my bed. Then I would just use the velvet wrench to get him to fully embrace his new role as my submissive. Update little hubby update. Hi Mary, it's Kayla. Hey girl, so how'd it go last night? Oh my god, you wouldn't believe how mature Jack was about everything. I expected him to go nuclear, but he didn't even raise his voice. He was just so calm and accepting of it all. Wow, that's great. I told you he'd comply. Do you think you'll be able to convince him to watch tonight? I doubt it. In fact, I don't think I'll even suggest it. He said he'd refuse to have lovemaking with me while I'm with someone else. I'm sure that won't last long. After a week or two of using his hands, knowing he has a beautiful woman by his side, he'll be right back. That could be a lot of fun. Since he refused to touch me, I just went ahead and made him move to the spare room. He's packing his things now. He promised me that he would completely move out of the owner's bedroom before I came home tonight. Ha! I love that you changed the name from master bedroom to owner's bedroom. I'm going to have to start doing that myself. Oh, definitely. Anyway, I should probably get ready. I'll meet you at the club. Okay, bye-bye. Later that night, Jack had made pretty good progress boxing up all his stuff from my bedroom. I wasn't sure why he really needed to pack when he could just carry armfuls of stuff down the hall, but he explained that it was better that way. It would be less walking, and he could go through everything, leaving behind the things he really didn't need in boxes to get rid of. I guess that made some sense, but I was too busy getting ready to pay attention. He did say how seductive I looked in my underwear, garter belt, stockings, and 5-inch heels. He said nothing when I wore the little red cocktail dress I got for our 5th anniversary last year. That was actually the only time I wore it, but I looked damn good in it. I informed Jack that I was going out and expected to return around 1 a.m. I mentioned that he didn't need to wait for me as I might not be alone. After saying this, I picked up my clutch and prepared to leave. He assured me not to worry, mentioning that he would have moved out by the time I returned. As he made this promise, he closed the last box. As I left the house, a sense of unease lingered within me, though I couldn't quite identify its source. Despite this, I chose to dismiss it, directing my focus towards the anticipated fun and excitement of the night at the club. I encountered Mary, Larry, and Josh, the account managers known for their attractiveness and reputed charm, according to Mary and some of the other office girls. While Jack was moderately charming, the thought of experiencing something different intrigued me, with the added expectation that they knew how to make the evening enjoyable. In the midst of conversation, Mary asked about Jack's move to the spare bedroom. When our first order arrived, I confirmed that he had completed packing and assured me of being entirely moved out by the time I returned. Upon sharing this information, Josh questioned if Jack had indeed made such a statement. I affirmed, recalling Jack's words when I mentioned my expected return time. Our group burst into laughter at the remark, and Larry humorously expressed disappointment about Jack having moved out, as he was hoping to involve him in a social setting. I playfully suggested that perhaps after some persuasion, we could consider such arrangements. Over the course of several hours, we engaged in dancing and indulged in drinks. I danced with both of them on multiple occasions, particularly during slow songs where we embraced closely. Throughout the night, their hands stayed respectfully on my back. Later, Mary and I took a break and went to the ladies' room to discuss how the night would end. We decided the ride home through 3 rounds of rock, paper, scissors, resulting in me driving Josh and Mary accompanying Larry. Upon arriving at the house, I led Josh through the front door, noticing that it was dark inside. I assumed Jack had gone to bed by then, reassuring myself that everything was in order. Anyway, we didn't need him watching. I led Josh down the hall to my room. Of course, all of Jack's stuff was gone. Maybe I should reward him by offering a small gesture. There would be something to think about later. Right now, I had other things requiring my attention. It didn't take us long to settle in, but Josh wanted me to keep the garter belt and stockings on. I had lost my accessory a couple of hours ago, unsure if it was Larry's or Josh's. It didn't matter, I could afford new ones. The next 2 hours were pure bliss. We started with casual conversation, then switched to a more relaxed tone. We ended the evening peacefully. After Josh left the next morning to return to his wife and kids, I put on my robe and went to get some coffee. I felt a bit let down that Jack hadn't brewed coffee yet, considering it was already past 9 a.m. Typically, he'd be up for an hour by now. I planned to address it with him later. I mean, would it hurt him to make me coffee and breakfast, especially after I stayed up late? So much for the little reward I had considered offering him for moving into the spare bedroom while I was away. After devouring my breakfast bagel, I headed to the shower and got dressed. The warm water did wonders for soothing my sore muscles. Since I had no plans for the day, I opted for my old shorts and a t-shirt. As I was only going to be around Jack, I wore a functional bra and an old pair of regular underwear. Just as I finished tying my hair into a ponytail, the phone rang. "Hey, girlfriend," it was Mary. "Hey, seductive thing. So, how was Josh last night?" "He was amazing. It was exactly as I thought it would be." "Speaking of Jack, what was his reaction this morning?" "I don't know. I'm a little angry because he seems to be asleep. I was disappointed that he didn't make me breakfast and coffee this morning. I was even thinking of offering him a part-time job for being moved to the spare room, but now I don't think so." "Yes, make sure he knows how disappointed you are and what you expect from this moment. Continue to be aggressive with him, but make sure you give him small rewards when he does something good. This will give him an incentive to try harder." I'm actually starting to get angry that he still hasn't gotten up. Wait a minute while I get his lazy ass out of bed. I walked down the hall to the spare bedroom and pounded on the door, shouting his name. No response. I tried again, still no answer. Finally, I turned the knob and swung the door open. "Oh, crap," I exclaimed. "What's wrong?" Mary asked over the phone. "Jack isn't in the spare bedroom. His clothes aren't even in the closet." "Wait," I said, running through the house. "Crap, his truck is gone, as are all his tools." That little stirring in the back of my head was starting to take shape. "Oh no," I gasped. "What? What is it?" Mary asked, her voice full of concern. "Jack moved out." Now I understood what he was talking about. He never said he would move his stuff into the spare room. He only said he would move his stuff out of my room. Then he said he would move in before I returned. I thought he meant he would move into the spare room, but he meant he would move out of the whole house. Crap, I need to call him and find out where he's gone. No, this is wrong. It sends him a message of weakness. You have to stay strong. Don't contact him, let him contact you. Trust me, right now, he's just having a little tantrum. In a couple of days, he'll come crawling back to you. This is actually a very good thing. Now you have a reason to punish him and make him beg to do something for you to let him come back. It speeds up the process. I bet you could even let Josh or Larry knock you up and make Jack raise the baby. Are you sure about that? I'm sure. Look what my husband does for me. Well, I have to admit, you've been right so far. Of course I am. Oh, and Larry wants to meet you in the supply closet at work for an hour on Monday. Can we really get away with that? Sure. At least half the girls are doing it. It's so bad I have to do it on a schedule. I'll email you the meeting time. Just put it down as an appointment somewhere else. Don't worry about it, the boss never goes there, and everyone who needs something knows to ask me before getting it. We continued our conversation for a bit longer before ending the call. I must confess, I felt a bit uneasy about Jack's move. Despite my actions, I genuinely loved him and envisioned spending my life with him. Mary's portrayal of a feminine lifestyle sounded appealing, offering me the opportunity to explore relationships with other men. Eventually, I planned to give up those relationships, but Jack would remain my devoted and submissive spouse. Perhaps in a few years, I could negotiate with Jack to let me tie him down in exchange for ceasing involvement with other men. Of course, This would only happen when I was ready to give it up, and he didn't need to know that. Yes, I could use that as a condition for his return. I'd need to consider that. Regardless, I needed to recover from the previous night and brace myself for a demanding day at work tomorrow. I shrugged it off, prepared a simple dinner, enjoyed a glass of wine, and went to bed. Throughout the week, there was no word from Jack. Mary assured me it wasn't entirely unexpected and predicted he would contact me soon. The longer he stayed away, the more conditions I could establish for his return. This week, I had been meeting Larry, Josh, and a couple of other attractive guys in the pantry every day. A double session with Larry and Josh was scheduled for this afternoon. On Friday morning, during our break around the coffee machine, Larry, Josh, Mary, and I were engaged in conversation when a professionally dressed woman approached us. The woman approached us with a calm, professional demeanor and asked, "Are you Kayla Adams, Mary Morgan, Josh Johnson, and Larry Jones?" Yes, we all confirmed, somewhat puzzled. Without missing a beat, she handed each of us an envelope and quickly snapped pictures with a small digital camera. Before we could even ask what it was about, she said, "You've all been served." She then turned toward our boss's office and headed that way. Confused and a bit shocked, I called after her, "What is this about?" In a sweet southern accent, she replied, I was paid to deliver these. I don't know what they are." She entered the boss's office without knocking, leaving us standing there, staring at the envelopes in our hands. I looked down at the envelope, then at the others. "What the hell is going on?" Josh muttered. "I have no idea," I responded, starting to open mine. Simultaneously, we all tore into the envelopes. What I found inside made my stomach drop. Divorce papers. The reason listed: spousal cheating. My head started to spin. Josh and Larry both got calls at the same time. Their faces turned pale as they answered. It didn't take long for me to understand what was happening. Their wives had found out, and now their belongings were being tossed out, one by one. Their marriages were over. Our boss's voice suddenly boomed from his office, loud enough for the entire floor to hear. "Adams, Morgan, Johnson, Jones, in my office now." His tone left no room for questions. With our heads down, we shuffled into his office like children called to the principal's office. The door slammed behind us with a force that made the walls tremble. The tension was unbearable. Once inside, our boss didn't waste time with pleasantries. He waved a manila envelope at us, his face red with anger. "Do you have any idea how bad this situation is?" he demanded, clearly furious. None of us dared to speak. He tossed the envelope onto his desk. "We are being sued. The company is being dragged into a lawsuit because of your actions. You three are being accused of inappropriate conduct, and you, Mrs. Morgan," he pointed at Mary, "are being accused of turning the storage room into a company brothel." My heart sank. This was worse than I could have imagined. He paced behind his desk, glaring at us. "I am legally prevented from firing any of you until the case is settled, but make no mistake, this company's reputation is on the line because of your disgraceful behavior. I cannot believe this is happening." He demanded that we leave his office until he could figure out how to handle the situation. Shamed and humiliated, we walked out of the office and returned to our desks. None of us spoke. Following that incident, my job became significantly more difficult, but I was grateful to still have employment. However, I couldn't shake the feeling that everything was unraveling, not just at work, but in my personal life as well. Later that day, I carefully reviewed the divorce papers I had received. They were thorough, containing images, videos, audio recordings, and even notarized letters. I felt sick. Jack had collected every piece of evidence he needed to ensure I couldn't contest the divorce. An hour after that, a company-wide email arrived from the boss, addressing all employees. In it, he stated that management had become aware of repeated actions that violated the company's code of conduct. Due to the scope of the problem, drastic actions were being taken to ensure compliance going forward. Security would now conduct spot checks of all secluded areas, and all employees were required to take an ethics course. Any supplies needed from the storage room would have to be accompanied by a security escort. I glanced at my email, and it was already flooded with hate mail from coworkers. The shame was unbearable. After work, the four of us, Larry, Josh, Mary, and I met at a bar across the street. Seated at a small table in the corner, we faced disapproving looks from other coworkers who were enjoying their Friday happy hour. It was clear that the news of what had happened had already spread throughout the company. "At least we still have work," Larry said bitterly, taking a sip of his beer. "At least for a while." "Yeah, that was nice of him," I muttered, though I didn't feel any better about it. Why do you think Jack included that in the court order? I asked the group. Josh shrugged. I don't think he was trying to cause minimal damage. I think he's out for blood. Why? I asked, feeling a knot form in my stomach. Alimony, Josh replied. While infidelity is the reason for the divorce, having a stable job and income could prevent a judge from awarding alimony. If we get laid off, it might convince a sympathetic judge to make us pay. I'm holding on to this job for as long as possible. Larry laughed, shaking his head. If we all get laid off after the divorce, there could be no alimony and no job. Josh nodded. Exactly. But if we quit voluntarily, it could backfire. We all fell silent, the weight of the situation sinking in. Our lives were spiraling out of control, and there seemed to be no way out. Realizing the potential consequences, I felt the need to talk to Jack and attempt to resolve our issues. Despite wanting to help my friends, the thought of losing my husband made me reconsider my priorities. In a moment of self-reflection, I questioned my initial intentions and concluded that if I needed to prioritize my marriage over my friendships, I would do whatever it took to save it. I swiftly retrieved my cell phone and tried calling Jack. After dialing, I encountered a message stating that the number I dialed did not accept calls from my number. Frustrated, I asked Mary to let me use her phone. Jack blocked me, I explained. I need to talk to him. Mary handed me her phone. I dialed Jack's number again, but the same message played. He had blocked her number as well. When Larry offered his phone, I hesitated, concerned about the potential consequences of calling my husband from one of my friends' phones. But at this point, I had no other options. He's probably blocked all my work and home numbers too, I sighed, realizing that calling him wasn't going to work. A sense of panic began to creep over me. What if I couldn't reach him at all? With talking on the phone no longer an option, I decided I needed to find him in person. The urgency to see him, to address the situation face to face, was becoming overwhelming. I couldn't let things continue this way. It was time to confront him directly. Do any of you know where Jack might be staying? I asked, looking at my friends. Larry and Josh exchanged glances, but neither of them offered any useful information. I'm sorry, Kayla. We don't know, Larry said. Well, if his friends won't tell me, then maybe I'll just have to find him myself. I spent the entire weekend driving around to motels and hotels, searching for his truck. I even drove past the houses of his closest friends, hoping to spot his vehicle parked outside. But I had no luck. Each location turned out to be a dead end. On Monday morning, I camped across the street from Jack's workplace, hoping to catch him going in. As employees arrived, I anxiously scanned the parking lot, but Jack never showed up. After waiting for over an hour, I gave up and decided to head to the office myself, even though I was already late for work. When I finally walked in, the receptionist told me that Jack had taken 2 weeks off. My heart sank. 2 weeks? He had been planning this for a while. The boss shot me an angry glare as I entered. I was late. I didn't care. All the phones I could have used to reach Jack were blocked. His friends refused to help, and I had no idea where he was. I couldn't even send him a letter since I didn't know where to mail it. Desperate, I resorted to sending him an email. I knew he always checked his email. I sat at my desk and began typing, pouring out everything I had been holding back. Email to Jack. Jack, no excuses. I won't waste time trying to provide one. I've contracted the fool's disease, and it's all my fault. I'm not blaming anyone else, not even Mary, though her words led me to this mess. I should have known better from the start. I want you to know that I'm deeply embarrassed and regret my actions more than you'll ever know. You did nothing wrong, it was me, being an idiot and incredibly selfish. I truly love you, Jack. Despite what I did, that hasn't changed. I know I don't deserve it, but I'm begging you to forgive me. I need to come back, and I'm willing to do anything to make things right. I've realized how foolish I was to try and create this version of our marriage. I know now that I want to be with you, to be your partner in every sense. I'm giving you my heart, my soul, everything. Please, Jack, I'm offering you anything. I'll put on a chastity belt and give you the key. I'll get tested for STDs. My results will come in a couple of days. Just tell me where to send them. I'll show you in every possible way that I'm committed to us. I'm asking for one chance to make things right, to prove that I can be yours and only yours, forever. No matter what happens, Jack, you're the best person I've ever known. I know you'd never intentionally hurt me, and I'm so sorry that I hurt you. Please, give me the opportunity to earn back your trust. I hit send and sat back, the weight of everything I had just written pressing down on me. There was nothing more I could do but wait and hope that he would read it and respond. Update: surprisingly, Jack hadn't blocked my email, and even more surprising, he actually read it. But I knew my words alone wouldn't be enough. After all, I had broken the most important vow I had ever made, the one about leaving everyone else behind. Since I had broken that promise, what reason did he have to believe that I wouldn't break any others? All I could do now was prove it to him, one action at a time. 2 years had passed since I sent that email. A lot had changed in that time. Josh and Larry both faced significant challenges in their divorces. All four of us, Josh, Larry, Mary, and I, were terminated the day after the lawsuit against the company was settled. Eventually, Josh and Larry found lower-paying jobs and moved into a small apartment in a rough neighborhood. Their social lives suffered, and their ex-wives turned their children against them. I, however, managed to hold on to something. Jack. Currently, I'm kneeling undressed beside the bed, wearing a chastity belt while Jack finished his morning routine. This is my penance. I had detailed all of this in the letter I wrote to him 2 years ago. Jack wanted to test me, to see if I would honor those words, and if I truly wanted to win him back. I didn't have much choice. It was a tough 6 months, but eventually, he eased up a bit. He still makes me do it sometimes, like now, but things have improved. He only brings other women home once every 2 months, which is much better than before. After getting fired from my job, I stopped working altogether. Jack got a promotion, and we managed just fine without my income. I stayed home to take care of our 2-year-old twins. I'm undressed most of the time, though Jack recently said I should start wearing clothes at home soon. The kids are getting old enough that it feels strange otherwise. Right now, I only wear clothes when leaving the house or when we have guests. I still answer the door undressed for deliveries, though I know Jack finds it amusing. I underwent laser hair removal a year ago, so I now have a permanent landing strip over my genitals. This makes it impossible to hide the tattoo I got of Jack's name on the right side of my hip and another one on the left side. Every week, Jack updates the 5 red stripes on my buttocks with a leather strap. Right after the 5th stroke, he removes my chastity belt and engages me intimately as I lean over the couch. I'm not perfect. Sometimes, there are more stripes on my body when I mess up, but strangely enough, I've grown to enjoy it. Who knew the sting of discipline could cause such a strong emotional bond? As for Mary, well, she's still married. True, she got fired like the rest of us, but no one expected her to face any serious consequences. Her husband seemed completely submissive to her whims, and she could easily find another job if she needed to. Life would continue for her as if nothing had changed. Life isn't always fair, right? Actually, it is. It turns out Harold, her husband, wasn't the submissive pushover everyone believed him to be. Once he gathered enough evidence, he got furious. I thought I had a tough 6 months, but compared to what happened to Mary, mine was a walk in the park. Harold quietly liquidated all of their assets, safeguarding what he could. Then, one day, he served Mary with divorce papers. He gave her the house, but only after refinancing it and taking all the equity. Then, he vanished. Mary lost the house and all the money disappeared. She managed to find another job, but it paid half of what she used to make. Her reputation was tarnished, and she wasn't dating anyone anymore. You might be wondering why I endure all of this, or maybe you're laughing at my deserved fate. If you're upset because Jack didn't leave me stranded, trust me when I say I thank God every day that he didn't. Even though I deserve worse, I endure this because I can't imagine being without him, the love of my life. Yes, Jack disciplines and humiliates me sometimes, but he still loves me. He has other women, but never without me, and I can leave anytime if I want to. Jack even showed me divorce papers, promising that he would be fair if I choose to leave, but I declined. He's an excellent father, lover, and husband, and I don't need anything else. I got so caught up in the idea of a feminine marriage that I lost sight of what truly matters. Instead of being content in an equal relationship, I ended up becoming subservient to my husband. That wasn't what I intended, but here I am. And you know what? I'm okay with it.